The subject was the Constitution of India, a debate in Parliament wherein Priyanka Gandhi Vadra made her first speech, marking her Parliament debut. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. After days and days of no work in Parliament, the opposition and the government finally came, well, at least face to face in the Lok Sabha today. At the heart of the debate was the Constitution of India. Rajnath Singh opened for the government, and intriguingly, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra made a fiery speech where she said it was protecting the Samvidhan and not Sangh Ka Vidhan. Rahul Gandhi later described his sister's speech to be better than his maiden speech. Priyanka Gandhi also targeted the Prime Minister for not spending enough time in Parliament and made references to Gautam Adani, which has been a pet focus of the Congress party. Rajnath Singh accused the Congress of having tried to subvert the constitution in the past. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra took on that criticism of the emergency years under Indira Gandhi head on. To talk about the debate we witnessed and also Priyanka Gandhi's debut performance, let me introduce our guests on the program today. Joining us is image guru, brand consultant, and political analyst Dilip Cherian. Always a pleasure, Dilip. Also joining us is Sanjay Hegde, a senior advocate, a man known for his trenchant humor. By the way, I must share that Sanjay's comment on the Supreme Court judgment on places of worship was that Bharat Khodo has been halted for now. So that is something to think about and also debate possibly. Also joining us is Sugata Srinivasaraju, who's of course an author and a journalist. Welcome, Sugata, seeing you after a long time. And also joining us is Abhijit Iyer-Mitra, who's of course a political analyst and a senior fellow at the IPCS. Always a pleasure, Abhijit. Welcome, everybody. It's great to see all of you here. Let me start by just setting the tone by playing just a 30-seconder from that speech where Priyanka Gandhi covered everything from Nehru to emergency and everything in between. Have a look and we'll be right back.
आज संसद में बैठे हुए सत्ता पक्ष के मेरे साथी ज्यादा से ज्यादा अतीत की बातें करते हैं। 1921 में क्या हुआ, कब हुआ, नेहरू जी ने क्या किया। अरे वर्तमान की बात करिए, देश को बताइए आप क्या कर रहे हैं, आपकी जिम्मेदारी क्या है, कि सारी जिम्मेदारी जवाहरलाल नेहरू की है।
Why are you talking about the past? Why are you fixated on the past? Why are you fixated on Nehru? Why don't you talk about the present and what you'll do for the country today? I will also be sharing later in the program Rajnath Singh's speech or excerpts from it. Dilip Cherian, this was a debut performance. It was an interesting choice of speaker in terms of, making her or attempting to make her the lead face, opening for the opposition in this debate around the Constitution. How do you think she did?
She did well for an opening speech, certainly, and she ticked so many boxes that it's difficult to see it as a debut speech, really, because it had a certain seasoned air about it. She also made sure that she provoked just enough without necessarily triggering chaos, and the ability to do it in a measured tone and to ensure that it was done with a simplicity and yet a kind of ownership, which is something that many leaders aspire for after years of being speakers in Parliament. She really did well, I think. I think also that it's important to recognize that the Congress party, by fielding her, was taking a very calculated chance that they would probably throw her on a subject, on a debate where there's going to be a huge amount of attention. And if it was designed to bring her completely into the forefront, it certainly has worked, because across media, across social media, this seems to be the trending speech of the day.
So you think that it didn't feel like an opening speech? It felt like the speech of a seasoned politician. Before the inevitable comparisons could be drawn to Rahul Gandhi, he seemed to preempt that, Sugata, and said that he thought she did much better than his first speech. That also was an interesting sort of comment by Rahul Gandhi. What's actually going on here? Given I must locate all of this speech bazi by either side in the context of what really matters, who wins how many elections. And given the fact that the Congress has not done well in any assembly election since the Lok Sabha verdict.
Thank you, Barkha. I mean, it's quite an acknowledged fact that she's a better speaker and she presents her facts fairly interestingly. And, I was watching a reel a few days ago where Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka are sitting with their Hindi tutor from the past. And he is openly saying that, her Hindi is much better. No, I mean, she wrote much better Hindi, spoke much better Hindi, pronounced much better Hindi. So there was a ready acknowledgement that was happening there. This was one of the reels that I watched I think a few days ago. So there is quite a ready acknowledgement there. It's not the first time. And then Rahul Gandhi also sort of goes an extra step to say or acknowledge his sister. Tries to put her in the front. And the kind of bonhomie that you see between the brother and sister is not very new. But it would have been a completely different thing. See, there was even a picture that Rahul Gandhi put out today where Mr. Vadra, Sonia Gandhi, and he's standing behind them.
I think we have that picture. Let's pull it up. But
I mean, if he sort of goes an extra mile to sort of project his sister, present her to the public, and demonstrate the affection that he has for her. But when you're running a political party, when you're part of a big system like the Congress Party, I wish he had done it for others too. So, that's something that came to my mind immediately. And the little bit of what you played, Barkha, I should confess I have not watched the entire speech today, but whatever you played, she was urging the BJP to forget about the past and speak about the present. See, that is also an escape that the Congress is seeking, because the constitution debate, nobody from the Nehru-Gandhi dynasty has ever apologized without caveats. I emphasize without caveats for the emergency. Right? So in 22, when Rahul Gandhi said it was completely wrong, he said, but the institutions were not attacked then, which is a complete lie. The institutions were totally rummaged, and it was a kind of, Sanjay Hegde would be in a better position to speak about that. But it's as much as the BJP needs to commit itself to the constitution after all their statements in the past, the Congress also needs to commit itself to the constitution. So it's two mainstream parties which have to sort of commit themselves, renew their commitment.
I just have the precise line that she. Sorry, I'm interrupting you because on the emergency, I have the precise line that she did actually reference. She said, "Seek lijiye na aap bhi." Priyanka Gandhi said on the mistakes of emergency. So it was an acknowledgement that it was a mistake. And she said the BJP should also take lessons from it, as the Congress has. I mean, I'm paraphrasing.
No, in 1978, into English.
Yeah.
As early as 1978, speaking in Andhra Pradesh, I think Mrs. Gandhi herself said it was a mistake. But then there is always a caveating that happens after that. They always say, but. That kind of, apology for what happened then, complete upheaval, is not an apology at all. So that's what I refer to.
Now, Abhijit, one of our audience members is writing and saying, do we really grade students on their performance on their first day at school? She could end up being a part-time parliamentarian, just like a political career. I mean, I think he means to say just like I don't know who he's referring to. He doesn't say. But the fact that she could end up being a part-time politician is a very important reality check, that the rhetoric doesn't matter as much as actual, measurable, tangible performance at the hustings. She's, of course, won Wayanad handsomely. The Congress hasn't done well in the assemblies, leading to a peculiar situation where the Gandhis' own political career, or at least their own electoral battle, seem to be doing better than that of the party.
But that was always going to be the case, Barkha. Why is that surprising? If you're born a Gandhi, you're given the entire infrastructure. There is more spent on a Gandhi constituency more effort put into a Gandhi constituency, more campaigning happening at a Gandhi constituency than of any other Congress leader. This is, allocating scarce resources to the king, so to say, which will always do better than the party at large. Number one. Number two, we never judge by the first day performance. That said, the first day performance of Priyanka was significantly better than all of her brothers' performances. She came off as much more mature. I completely acknowledge what Sugata said about, the caveats, and even in her own phrasing of the emergency, she never elucidated. She just said, "Seek lijiye." She never said, "Galti hui." Right? So there's always been, like Sugata pointed out, this sort of playing hopscotch with the emergency. But he was still appeared as having a lot more gravitas.
How was she better than her brother? How was she better than her brother? You said, and you say this as a critic of the Congress, that she came across better than her brother. In what manner?
In a much more serious way. She wasn't, first, she was very well dressed. She doesn't treat Parliament like a high school soccer game where you rock up in a white t-shirt. She treats it with the respect it is due, unlike Rahul, who will dress in a suit for Oxford or Harvard, but won't show his own Parliament the same respect. I think it was Sugata or Dilip who said it. She was, Rahul very frequently crosses that line into nastiness. She was just that right amount of tart without being acidic. She was lemon juice. She wasn't vinegar. It was a phrase. But the thing was, there were also glaring boo-boos out there. For example, attacking her own government in Himachal. I don't even realize I don't know if she realized that it is her government in Himachal, and she's completely free to reverse all those laws. But she went on the same pace about it. And I don't think anybody pointed it out to her, even within her own party. That might be a problem. But that said, all up, this one opening speech of hers was way better than anything her brother has ever delivered in Parliament.
So that's interesting. And this turn of phrase, metaphorically, of course, lemon juice, not vinegar, tart, not acidic. I think there seems to be consensus so far among our speakers that there wasn't that crossing of the line into something that was going to become controversial, which is often how Rahul's speeches sometimes certainly end up becoming. Before I get Sanjay Hegde to come in on this, I want to also play out Rajnath Singh, because Rajnath Singh did hit back at the opposition for what Sugata was talking about, having subverted the constitution. Take a look.
की बातें मैं समझता हूं शोभा नहीं देती है। अध्यक्ष महोदय, आज मैं देखता हूं कि विपक्ष के कई नेता संविधान की प्रति अपनी जेब में रखकर घूमते हैं। असल में उन्होंने बचपन से ही यही सीखा है। उन्होंने पीढ़ियों से अपने परिवार में संविधान को जेब में ही रखे थे। लेकिन अध्यक्ष महोदय, भारतीय जनता पार्टी संविधान को सिर माथे पर लगाती है।
Sanjay Hegde, I want to ask you, the fact is that the emergency is a dark chapter of the country. And Priyanka Gandhi did allude to the BJP's reference to it and said, "Aap bhi seekhiye," meaning we have learned, you also learn. Is the constitution, though, still an issue? The fact that the only time Parliament has worked is to debate the constitution, or, to talk about protection of the constitution, the BJP's issued a whip. I mean, what do you make of that? I can understand that in the Lok Sabha, the opposition was able to tap into a kind of suggestion that if the BJP gets too many numbers, the rights of even reservation could be changed, and that worked. It didn't work for them in subsequent assembly elections. Is the constitution still an issue?
Well, defending the constitution is. And when Mr. Rajnath Singh spoke about the constitution in the pocket, I must tell you a personal story. This pocket edition, the red book, as it were, comes about from Eastern Book Company, who got this idea from Gopal Shankar Narayan, my friend, who had seen me continually carry a copy of the Constitution in the days that I used to assist the Attorney General. Those days, it was a square thing by Universal Book House, and it was not particularly suited for the for our lawyers' courts. And that's how the court pocket came about. But bringing the constitution in as both an artifact and a display weapon, that is a recent development. I think the closest that we saw to it was in the US during the Hillary Clinton campaign at the Democratic Convention. A Muslim gentleman who had lost his son used the constitution to point towards Donald Trump. And that's where the imaging has now come. However, on a more serious note, the constitution is not a mere red book. It is a solemn compact between citizen and citizen, and between the citizen and the government.
Yeah.
The citizen tells the fellow citizen that whatever are your rights under that book are my rights. And if your rights are taken away, my rights are also taken away. It also, sorry, there's something wrong with my video, but let my audio continue.
Carry on. Carry on. Yeah.
It also happens that the government is told that you have to work the government within your constitutional limits. Most importantly, the constitution was forged at a specific point of time after a previous decade of violence, which included the Second World War, the atom bomb, the Jewish Holocaust, partition violence, and everything that went wrong due to communal tensions. An 80% Orthodox Hindu majority in the Constituent Assembly said we are not going down that path, and made very careful constitutional choices for our society. First and foremost, the Constitution is a social document, and that is a message which needs more resonance rather than just flashing a book around.
Okay. On a lighter note, Sanjay Hegde, you look even more colorful than usual. So we live with the strange purple-pink hues that your video.
I don't know what's wrong with my camera. I'll just set it right.
I'll
log off and log in.
You could have at least matched it to the red of the constitution that you have introduced as an artifact. But no, more seriously, Dilip, I think Sugata raised a very important point. And it's also interesting to see the relative praise for Priyanka Gandhi from Abhijit, who is not a fan, as it were, of the Congress. But Sugata's point first, that the Congress also needs to commit itself to constitutionalism. And one of the things that happens is, if you're like the kind of grand old party of governance, even if struggling today to fight back, there are blots on your own history that you have to take head on. They're just there, they're recorded history. Do you think that is eventually a weakness in the Congress argument? And two, do you think that these kind of comparisons with Rahul Gandhi will in the end create two camps within the Congress, or is the family too thick for any of those comparisons to matter? Can we unmute Dilip, please? I can't hear Dilip.
What Sugata said makes absolute sense, simply because it is only if the Congress can say mea culpa with no ifs and buts that it can start pushing and making the BJP and every other party accountable for any constitutional lapses. Because as long as you have that ball and chain around your feet, you're not able to attack with the alacrity and with the kind of vigor that you need to do at this point of time. So there is no doubt that doing that with an unequivocal statement would have been a smart thing to do. The second thing is that as far as the constitution is concerned, both the Congress party as well as several parties in the opposition have reason to attack their other side with. And I think that is bound to show up in more speeches as tomorrow begins until the Prime Minister eventually replies. So you will have some more of that at some stage. As to whether the family will be either adversely impacted by this fulsome praise on Priyanka, I don't think so. I think the kind of brother-sister relationship that exists is not susceptible to public comment. If anything, it's only commentary within the family which might be of relevance as far as their relationship is concerned.
Sugata, the point is, though, in the end, what does it all amount to? Even if I take Dilip and Abhijit and your point that she's the better orator, her Hindi is better, you know, she brings more gravitas. All of these points that have been mentioned on this program, it has to amount, it has to translate into something. And the Congress's real crisis is to mistake rhetoric and social media popularity with organizational strength. You cannot win elections without repairing your organization. You cannot be obsessed with Adani and actually pretty much let the government off the mat on so many other things that matter because you're obsessed with Adani. I mean, I'm no hold no brief for Adani. I've probably met him once in my life, but I'm just making a point as a political observer that how is it helping the Congress electorally? Doesn't seem to.
That's right, Barkha. That's been a kind of conundrum that I have asked myself as well. Congress without the last mile, support, organizational support, whatever rhetoric that the Congress may end up, building, it could be on the Constitution, save democracy, Constitution, or social justice, caste, any such thing, needs the kind of organizational support that the Congress totally lacks. The Congress has been completely dependent on somebody like a Samajwadi Party, so which sort of leads to kind of innuendo that we have been hearing of late. EVM debate, let's take that. Mamata Banerjee has defeated the BJP 4 or 5 times, and you cannot go on raising the EVM issue when somebody like a Mamata Banerjee is not speaking about it, when a Biju Patnaik has not spoken about it, or Akhilesh Yadav is not emphasizing on that. So, there are lots of such things which the Congress has to take into account before it starts pushing the larger theoretical issues. See, every little argument that is being made today, Barkha, I mean, I've just finished a book on emergency in the US and the international response. So I can tell you with some, having read the archives, so this whole thing about supremacy of the parliament versus the constitutional courts was a argument that developed during the emergency. Dynasty, which we are today speaking about so vehemently, praising, Priyanka and thinking of Rahul as a, good do-gooder and all that. Dynasty itself was an idea that emerged out of the, emergency. So, there are contradictions, wholesome contradictions, which the Congress has to address. Without that, I think they will not be taken seriously. At least thinking people, that is a lot of liberals, the bogey of liberals is with them. But at some point, that reasoning is going to sort of hurt them.
Yeah, interesting. Abhijit, I want to flip the question around and look at how the BJP might be looking at Priyanka Gandhi. And I look at that photograph, our producers did pull it up, and if we can please pull it up again, which I think one of our panelists mentioned, I think Sugata mentioned it, that photograph which shows Sonia Gandhi, Robert Vadra, Robert and Priyanka's son Rehan, and Rahul Gandhi, and they're all there. There was a time when Robert Vadra was considered, the biggest controversy, and there was a sense that there would be a BJP government, and then Robert Vadra would not be relevant. And here's Robert Vadra now talking about his own political ambitions, and the BJP seems to not be doing very much, if it can do anything. How do you think the BJP looks at Priyanka Gandhi, or should be looking at Priyanka Gandhi?
So I can tell you from private conversations, they view her as even more attackable than Rahul, primarily because of Robert. And I think the Congress is making a huge mistake by showing Rehan and his father on all these clips. Because once all the DLF stuff starts coming out or starts getting...
there it is. That's the photograph today. In Parliament, they're all there. You're saying this is a mistake to also show Robert in this...
I think it's a huge mistake. I think the Congress is deliberately walking into a trap. I think their strategy is to showcase this sort of, this happy family thing, because Rahul is a bachelor, right? How can a bachelor look after a country of big families and things like that? So here's the motherly figure looking after her kids, whatever. They want to showcase that image. And this bachelor image works for a Sangh prime minister. They're expected to be bachelors. It doesn't work for a Congress prime minister.
Why
Right.
not? How does it matter? How does it matter? It's
Because
helped Modi so much in his brand. Wherever you go, people will say, "Unka to bacha bhi nahi hai. Why would he be?" Like, I've had voters say this to me. He doesn't have a family, so therefore they think he won't be corrupt, because who would he be corrupt for? People actually understand it in this way.
Absolutely. But that is the Sangh brand image. The Congress brand image is one of, happy families and things like that, because it's always been put forward as the family. It is the Gandhi
Yeah.
family. You're expected to have family. It is family. It is not renunciation, right? One is dynasty, one is renunciation. So if you look at it in Mahabharata terms, this is either going off to Vanvas or ruling with a family kind of dynamic out. So I think they're walking into a trap, because they will shortly find out that Robert Vadra is going to be the weakest link in this entire chain.
But it's been so long that it's been so long since he was described as such, and nothing has really moved on that case or cases.
Because remember, he was away from the public, from the messaging of the Congress. He's come back into prominence, and Rehan has also been put into prominence only after Priyanka decided to come into parliament. So they're cultivating that image, and clearly they're trying to show continuity, because they've given up on Rahul having a family. So there has to be continuity. The crown has to be passed on. The scepter has to be passed on, which is why this image is coming. And this is where it exposes itself to the vulnerability. That said, Barkha, just quickly before I end, I wanted to correct something you said. I've never been anti-Congress. I actually voted for Congress several times, including in 2009. I am just anti-Rahul Gandhi because he has taken what was a centrist party into the loony left, right? These days, I can't tell the difference between the CPIM and the Congress anymore on certain issues. That's my whole issue with him.
Okay, I think that's a very important distinction. And I should have said, well, in the current situation, you're a critic of Rahul Gandhi. That would be fair.
Yes,
that would be fair. Okay. And because you feel that he's pulled the party to a leftwards lurch, which is more left than the left. All right, I stand corrected on that. Sanjay Hegde, I will ask you the same. You're a lawyer. You say defending the constitution will always be relevant. I agree. But how do you translate it into a language that captures the imagination of the voting public, right? It can't be esoteric. You can't have esoteric debates that don't impact the everyday lives of people. And we can all sit here in our navel gazing way and talk about whose Hindi is better, who has a better persona. What does the voter care? Does the voter care about ideology? Does the voter care about the price of onions? Is there a space in between?
Well, voters care about various things, whatever is served up as the campaign slogan. Onions do matter. I remember the Congress came back to power in 1980 on the price of onions. The onions again haunted the BJP when Sushma Swaraj was CM of Delhi. So inflation matters. Voters feel with their pocketbooks. That having been said, how do you message the constitution is a very important thing. And the one thing that has given me hope over the past several decades is that the constitution, which was a social document, which people thought was basically a topsoil dressing on a deeply inegalitarian basic matter of Indian society, has started putting down roots. It was the tribals of Patalgadi who put out their fundamental rights on stones in the Naxalite infested areas. It was 3 young girls in my hometown of Udupi who told their teacher, look, we have a constitutional right to wear the hijab. The fact that men and women have rights which are inalienable, which are recognized as constitutional rights, and which will be held up against everyone, including the state, that is a thought which has gone down. And if you message it as hak, तुम्हारे हक की लड़ाई, तुम्हारे हक छीने जा रहे हैं. That is
Yeah.
where you find resonance. So one haq
I
that people saw was reservations. That
yeah,
was a
but
gift of Baba Sahib which was being sought to be taken away.
I agree with you that messaging is everything, but organizational repair is also everything. It's almost bigger than what positions you take. Dilip, quick last word to you on this idea of the family image, the lack of defensiveness anymore about Robert Vadra. I mean, there was a time when the Congress would not have brought him out as very present at all of these key moments, though he always was in a personal capacity. Now it's much more public. I think a lot of people feel enough time has passed. It's a non-issue with Priyanka as an MP. It's a more of a non-issue. Do you think it's a bigger issue now or less of an issue?
My sense is that it is a smaller issue and will eventually move to the sidelines. But what I'm really concerned about is that at this point of time, we are discussing the debate on the Constitution. The Congress certainly needs to look inwards, set its house in order, get its cadres rejuvenized, etc., etc. But that rejuvenation will only happen after the fury and the sound of all of this is. Priyanka very carefully did bring up the issues that she said, why don't we discuss the present and the situation of what's going on? And I think that is where the Congress also needs to focus on. Whatever it may want to say about a businessman or be businessman, the issues that people are concerned about, besides the rights enshrined in their constitution, as Sanjay and Abhijit have referred to, is the fact that people want their livelihoods, people want the possibility of livelihoods for themselves at prices which they can afford. And I think that needs to come back into this debate if it is to make sense to the people they are addressing. I was sitting with some MPs earlier this evening, and they all said that it's one thing to speak at the political hustings and give political speeches, but when you speak in parliament, every parliamentary speaker recognizes that potentially the entire country is listening to her or to him. So I think that pressure needs to be there on every speaker, also on every party, to get the messages that the people want to hear out there and to link it to the Constitution.
That's very interesting because it's clear as we close that the pecking order between the two is not in doubt. Priyanka Gandhi has always referred to Rahul as the boss of the party. And right now, this focus on one industrialist is very much his and his team's choice. Whether it's hers and whether she thinks separately, we'll never know, at least in public. And that's a very important point. How do you message your opposition or your role as an opposition in such a way that it matters to people? We leave it there. These are going to be interesting times. The Prime Minister's response is, oh, sorry, Sugata, you wanted to add a line? Go ahead, Sugata.
I mean, Sanjay ji made a very interesting comment on the Constitution being a social document. See, that's very, very correct and very important to say that. But I think it also needs to be, if it needs to be extended, if the messaging has to sort of get through, it also has to be a cultural document. This is something that a lot of us have been emphasizing for the last 10, 15 years, which I don't think the deracinated Congress party ever understands. See, the advantage with the BJP is that they already have a cultural argument and they're now appropriating Ambedkar and the Constitution. So they're moving in a completely different direction. Let me just remind you of Arun Shauri, worshipping false gods. From there to now, it's a completely different game. So they have a cultural argument which you don't have anything against it, and now you're just waving the Constitution without understanding how to culturally message the Constitution. They have not applied their mind on that, and that has been pointed out several times.
I think that's a really critical point, and I'm glad you made it in the end. The brief time that they were able to make it seem like a living document on whose values people's lives depended, was to link it to reservation in Lok Sabha. But that's again economic livelihood and identity. But how to make the constitution feel like a living, breathing document that actually, you can root your identity, trace your identity back to. I think that's a very interesting point. We leave it there. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Sanjay, Hegde, Abhijit, Iyer-Mitra, Sugata, Srinivasaraju, and Dilip, Cherian. Always a pleasure. And to our audience, thank you. Have a great weekend and see you tomorrow.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.